The granite was cold and clean, like a truth I couldn't argue with. I pressed my forehead to the headstone and whispered, "You win. I'm still here." My hands shook. The flowers wouldn't stand up in the wind. Neither could I. The rain didn't fall, but something else did. White envelopes, slipping out from under the bouquet ribbon, one by one, like doves without sky. I tore one open. "If you're reading this, it means you made it through another month." Her handwriting tilted right, brave as a sail. "Please eat with the blue bowl tonight. The white one is for mornings you. Forget less that way. Sleep with the window cracked. It keeps your nightmares from fogging the room." I laughed without sound. My chest ached where my heart should be. I walked home the long way, past the bridge where we were 15 and feral, 2 runaways bargaining with winter. I told the river I had nothing left to bargain. The river kept my secret. At my building, a neighbor's dog barked at the mailbox like it knew a prophecy. Inside box for B, a single envelope waited. Same cream paper. Same brave tilt. But the postmark froze me. It was dated next month. I broke the seal with a thumbnail I kept for bad days. "If you open this early, you're cheating," the letter teased. But I knew you would. You always touch the wound before you learn to stop bleeding. I sat on the dirty staircase, the kind that smells like metal and rain. "Listen," the letter said, "the nights will try to swallow you. Let them taste, but not finish. Keep the blue bowl by the sink. Keep the pills in the tea tin labeled cloves. Keep the window open. And keep going. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for the boy who once slept under bridges and still shared his bread." I closed my eyes and saw us, 2 kids with coin-sized hopes and thunderstorm pockets. She had dirt on her cheek and a map in her laugh. I didn't remember when I began to love her, only that I did too late, always too late. A second page slid free. "P.S. When you finally say it out loud, don't say sorry first. Say I love you, and mean it like you mean the word home." The hallway light flickered. In the reflection of the mailbox glass, I saw my face older, meaner, expensive like armor you rent, because owning anything terrifies you. I whispered to the empty stairwell, "I love you." The bulb popped, and darkness rippled down the hall like a curtain call. From the apartment above mine, a radio began to play a song we used to hate, because it sounded like everyone else's happy ending. I laughed again, that soundless kind. Then footsteps. Quick, certain. A shadow on the landing. "For B," a woman's voice called, warm with memory. "I've been looking for you." I knew the shape before the light found her. The same tilt of letters lived in her smile. She held out an umbrella, and in the space where a ring might be, there was a thin white groove from years of wearing sunlight. "Marry me," she said, like we were still 15 and daring winter to blink first. My mouth tried to find the correct cruelty. The old script, be sharp, be safe, be nobody's fool. But the envelope on my knee hummed like a heartbeat. "Okay," I said. "Okay." And with that single coward's mercy, I chose a life I didn't yet deserve. I was 16 when I learned that homes can bruise you. My father's silence was a fist made of air. My mother's love, a ledger balanced only for my brother. So I left. No bag. No plan. Just a cracked lighter and the idea that somewhere, someone might need me the way I'd never been needed. I slept under bridges, behind gas stations, inside the backs of pickup trucks that smelled of rust and hope. Then came her. She was wearing shoes that didn't belong on a runaway. White canvas, spotless, too soft for the kind of miles we walked. She sat on the curb beside me like she owned the world and was bored of it. "Got a name?" she asked. I told her one I'd made up last week. She smiled. "Good. I'll be someone else too." She looked at my cracked lighter and said, "You light the fire, I'll keep it burning." For that first winter, we were saints of small things, stealing apples, sharing sweaters, trading stories for warmth. She called herself Emma, because she said it meant whole in some language she once forgot. At night she'd count stars, then make up wishes for both of us. One for her freedom, one for my peace. I told her peace didn't exist. She said that was why we had to invent it. There were nights she'd hum to keep the cold from talking too loud. She always hummed the same tune. I didn't ask why. Years later, When a radio played it in some hotel lobby, I realized she'd written it herself. Once, in the middle of a rainstorm, she tore her shoe on a nail and laughed like it was a miracle. I carried her on my back, my breath fogging her laughter into the night. When we found Sheltora half collapsed, Barney built a fire with the last of my lighter fluid. She leaned close, her hair smelling like stormwater and fearlessness. "Promise me," she said. "What? When the world finally gives you something good, don't run." I wanted to promise. I wanted to mean it. But the world had only ever given me hands built to let go, so I said nothing. We stayed together for a year, one heartbeat at a time. And then she was gone. The police found her 2 towns over, sitting in a diner booth between 2 men in suits. Her parents, they said her name wasn't Emma, that she had a home. She looked at me through the window as they pulled away, her hand pressed to the glass, a silent word forming on her lips. Wait. I didn't. I ran, because that's what boys like me do when something finally feels safe. We mistake it for danger. 10 years later, the world had teeth, and I had learned to bite back. I wore suits and armor stitched in silk. Money made people polite, and I liked politeness. It kept everyone at a safe distance. That night, the ballroom lights were soft like false mercy. Champagne laughed in crystal throats. I was standing beside a window, pretending the city outside was mine, when she appeared. "Do you still forget to eat when you're busy?" The voice was sunlight over frost. I turned and the years elapsed. Emma. Except she wasn't Emma anymore. She looked like every rich man's dream, and every poor man's forgiveness. "I'm sorry," I said, the reflex of a man trained to unremember. She smiled like she'd practiced patience her whole life. "I'm not," she said. "You left, but I found you. That's what matters." She told me she ran a foundation for homeless youth. She said she'd named it the Blue Bowl Project. I almost choked. "How do you? You told me once," she interrupted gently, "that blue bowls keep nightmares away." I didn't remember saying it. But my chest did. My bones did. She looked around the room full of glass people and said, "You look like someone who stopped feeling cold the day he froze to death." Then she took a deep breath. "Marry me." The champagne laughter stopped. Even the orchestra seemed to wait. I stared at her, at the quiet insistence in her eyes. "This is insane." She shrugged. "So was running away at 15. We survived that. I don't even know you anymore." "You will. You think money can fix me." "No," she said. "But love might soften the cracks where the money can't reach." I wanted to laugh at her, at the naive cruelty of hope. But her voice trembled just once, barely yawned. Something in me cracked like old glass. So I did what cowards do best. I said yes. Not because I believed in love. Because I wanted to see how long she could stay before she realized I was beyond repair. That night, in the mirror, I tried on my new expression. Husband. It didn't fit. But when I closed my eyes, the mirror whispered back her voice, and I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd wear it long enough to remember what warmth felt like. The house she moved into felt too white, too large, like a lie with good lighting. She filled it with color the only way she knew how. Sticky notes. They began as reminders. Take the blue pills before bed. Don't skip breakfast today. But soon, they multiplied like breath. There was one beside the mirror. You look better when you forgive yourself. One on the refrigerator door. Eat something that didn't come from a box. One under the pillow. If you can't sleep, I'm here Yvonne if I'm not. I told her it was ridiculous. I don't need notes to live. She smiled unoffended. They're not for you, she said. They're for the silence between us. At night, she'd fall asleep fast. The kind of peace you can only earn after breaking a little each day. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling fan, turning like a clock that couldn't count right. Sometimes, I'd read her notes aloud under my breath, pretending the walls were listening. On our first anniversary, she left a note on the bathroom mirror. 1 year down, forever to go. Under it, a smaller one. But even if forever ends, you still win for finding me first. I didn't understand what she meant. Maybe I didn't want to. She made lists of grocery items but added things no one could buy. Courage, patience, rain that smells like home. Every note she wrote was softer than my anger, stronger than my denial. and slowly, they began to work. I stopped checking my bank account before saying thank you. I started eating at the table instead of the couch. I caught myself smiling once, small and uninvited. She saw it and said, "See? You do remember how?" I lied. How to fake it. She didn't argue. She just wrote a new note. Even pretending can be practice. Some nights I'd wake up from dreams I couldn't name, dreams where she was walking away, and I was too proud to run after her. Each time, I'd find a new note waiting on the bedside lamp. "You're safe. Go back to sleep." It wasn't until the third year that I realized something terrifying. The notes weren't just reminders. They were replacements for words she no longer had the strength to say. The day she came home from the hospital, she was carrying soup instead of answers. "I just overworked," she said too quickly, like a lie she'd rehearsed in the waiting room. Her smile was still there, but thinner, like light filtered through tired glass. Dinner tasted of garlic and something she wouldn't name. She made me promise to eat 2 bowls. I did. It was the first promise I hadn't broken in years. Afterward, she wrote a note and stuck it to the kettle. "Hot water helps when your chest hurts." I didn't ask whose chest she meant. That night I found her asleep at the table, head against the grocery list. There was a pen still in her hand. Her handwriting, usually a small dance, had started to tremble. Letters leaned against each other for balance, as if even words needed help standing up. I touched her wrist to wake her. Warm, but too fragile, like heat borrowed from tomorrow. She opened her eyes halfway. "Don't look at me like that," she whispered. "I'm still here." Then she smiled and fell asleep again. I stood there, watching the notes on the walls flutter under the fan. One of them had come loose and drifted to the floor. I picked it up. "You're safe. Go back to sleep." Except, the handwriting was different. It wasn't hers. It was mine. And I didn't remember writing it. For the first time, I realized I'd started to speak her language. Love in small squares. Care disguised as orders. Fear folded into ink. The next morning, she was already in the garden, watering a plant that had been dead for months. I told her it was hopeless. She said, "So were we, once." I watched her hands, thin and steady against the light. I thought, if the world breaks her, it'll have to go through me first. But I didn't say it. I just walked inside, closed the door, and pretended I couldn't hear her humming the song from under the bridge. That was the first night I couldn't find a new sticky note. Only silence, and the sound of my own heartbeat. Learning how to miss her too early. The doctor's voice was calm, too calm, like someone reading a weather forecast for a storm already outside the window. "She's fine," he said, smiling at me. "Just needs rest." Emma smiled back, the kind of smile that forgives you for believing lies. When I turned to sign the papers, she slipped the last page into her bag. I didn't notice. I didn't want to. That night, she cooked again, soup, always soup, like she was trying to teach my body the shape of comfort. She talked about ordinary things. The neighbor's new cat, the leaking faucet, how she wanted to repaint the living room blue. Every word was an anchor. Every silence, a secret. After dinner, she sat by the desk with a new notebook. I asked what she was writing. "Something for later," she said. "Just in case." "In case of what?" She smiled, that same soft deflection I'd fallen 4 years ago. "In case the silence gets too loud." The next morning, I found an envelope under my coffee cup. No name, no address. Just 3 words written in her smallest, neatest handwriting. "For when it rains." I laughed. She'd always been sentimental about weather, but when I held the envelope up to the light, I saw the faint outline of more letters inside. My name. Again and again. Like she was trying to remember me in ink. I left it unopened. I told myself it was a joke. But the envelope felt heavier than paper should. Weeks passed. She grew thinner, but happier, like someone walking home faster because they know where the road ends. I started finding more envelopes. One in the coat pocket. One behind the medicine cabinet. One taped under the coffee table. I didn't open any of them. I didn't have to. They were breathing for us both. One night I caught her in the living room at 2 a.m., sealing yet another letter. She looked up, startled, and said, You weren't supposed to see this one yet. What is it? I asked. A reminder, she said softly, for when I forget to remind you. Her hands were shaking so badly that the wax seal smeared. I reached out to help her press it closed. She didn't pull away. Promise me, she said. Promise what? That you'll keep opening them. Even when it hurts. The sky that night looked washed. Too clean for goodbye. Emma said she wanted to see the ocean. It was 3 hours away. But she packed a blanket, 2 mugs, and silence. We drove with the windows down. Her hair caught the wind like it still trusted the world. I kept one hand on the wheel, one hand on the letter she'd left on the dashboard. Don't open until you find the courage to speak. The coastline appeared before dawn, gray and endless, like a breath held too long. She spread the blanket on the sand, sat cross-legged, and waited for the light to start forgiving the water. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then she looked at me, and it felt like she could see every version of me at once. The runaway, the liar, the husband, learning how to stay. I used to think love was supposed to save us, she said. It doesn't know. It just gives us better reasons to survive. Her voice was soft but steady, a whisper trying to memorize its own echo. The wind kept stealing her breath, but she kept talking anyway. I'm not afraid of leaving, she said. I'm afraid you'll stop looking for reasons to live. I wanted to tell her she was being dramatic, but my throat refused the lie. The sea kept repeating itself, and I finally understood why. Because some words deserve to be said again and again. Until they sound true. Emma. She turned to me, eyes bright with the kind of peace that hurts to see. I swallowed. I love you. Her lips curved, as if the world had just answered a prayer too late. I know, she whispered. And then, she leaned against my shoulder, and for a long time, she didn't move. The sun came up slow, gold spilling across her hair. I thought she'd fallen asleep. I almost believed it. Her last note was tucked into her pocket, folded so many times the creases looked like years. You did it, it said. That's enough. I sat there until the tide erased our footprints, until the mug in my hand went cold. And when I finally looked up, the sky was the same pale color as her smile. Still warm, still fading. I don't need your letters, I said, voice too sharp. Her eyes softened. I know, she whispered. That's why I'm writing them. Later, when she fell asleep on the couch, I looked at the unfinished pile of envelopes. Each one dated a month apart. Each one stamped, ready. Each one addressed to me. On the topmost envelope, she'd written, when you read this, I might not be able to answer anymore. That was the first time I cried without making a sound. The house was quiet in a way that felt wrong. No hum of the kettle. No clatter of her bracelets. Just the slow tick of the clock, marking a time that no longer belonged to anyone. The hospital called at dawn. A woman's voice, soft, practiced. Mr. Hale, I'm sorry. I didn't answer. The phone slipped from my hand. Outside, the sky was the same pale gray she loved. It was raining, the kind that blurs everything but grief. At the funeral, there was no music. Only the sea wind. She'd asked for that. Let the waves do the talking, she'd written once. The priest read words that didn't sound like her. So I tuned him out and listened to the ocean instead. It said stay and go at the same time. When everyone left, I stayed. There was a sealed envelope on the coffin, addressed in her neat, tilting handwriting. It read, for when it's finally quiet. I waited until I was home to open it. Her scent was still trapped in the paper. Inside, a single page. Don't come looking for me. I'm not lost. Use what I left to find others who still are. Start with the children who sleep under bridges. You once told me the world forgot them. I never did. Love them the way you never let me. That's how you'll find me again. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her words had weight. They filled every empty room. The next week, I signed the first papers for a foundation. Her name went on every letterhead, the Blue Bowl Fund. It started small, a shelter, then a school program, then hundreds of children who'd never heard her name, but somehow spoke it with every smile. Still, the nights didn't get easier. I couldn't sleep without the sound of her voice in the dark. Then one evening, when the rain began again, I remembered the envelope she left under my coffee cup, the one marked for when it rains. I tore it open. The paper was thin, nearly transparent. Her writing trembled, but the words were steady. If it's raining, you're still alive. That's enough. Drink something warm. Feed someone else before you feed your sadness. I'll be in the sound the rain makes when it meets your window. You'll know it's me because it won't stop until you smile. I laughed and cried at once. The sound didn't know which side to choose. That night, I sat by the window with a blue bowl of soup, the same way she taught me. Outside, the rain kept knocking softly, as if asking to be let in. And for the first time since she left, I whispered back, I know, Emma. I know. The first month without her felt like drowning in slow motion. Every day I woke up forgetting she was gone, and every night I remembered. Her letters became my oxygen. I opened one each month, the way you take medicine, not because you believe it will cure you, but because you want to remember what hope tastes like. The first letter said, you're still here. That's all the proof I need. Buy new shoes. You walk too quietly when you're sad. The second said, feed the cat that always waits near the bench. He doesn't belong to anyone. That's why he found you. By the fourth month, I'd stopped checking calendars. The letters arrived without fail, always on the same day, each envelope dated correctly, each one stamped from a different town, towns she'd never been to. At first, I thought she had arranged everything before she died, that she'd found someone to send them for her. But then one arrived with the postmark dated next year. I stared at the numbers for a long time. The ink was fresh. The seal was unbroken. And when I opened it, I smelled rain. If you're holding this, then you made it to the other side of despair. Don't look for logic. Just believe me when I say, love runs on its own clock. The world will tell you you're crazy. Let it. Every time you help someone, I feel it. Every time you laugh, I hear it. Keep building the home we dreamed of. I'm not gone. I'm just on the way. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I laughed again. The noise scared the mailman. That night, I did something foolish. I wrote her back. I wrote about the Blue Bowl Fund, how it had grown, how the children painted murals of her smile, how I still cooked soup on rainy days. I sealed the letter and wrote her name, but no address. At the post office, the clerk stared at the envelope. No address. It'll find her, I said. He hesitated, then stamped it and dropped it in the bin. A month later, it came back. Same envelope. Same seal. But this time, there was a new stamp. A red one I'd never seen before. It read, forwarded. Destination, pending. Inside was my own handwriting. And a new page I hadn't written. You're doing well. Keep writing. Every word builds a bridge. When you stop, I'll fade. So don't stop. The letters became our heartbeat. Each reply returned with something added. A sentence, a word, sometimes just a dot of ink, like she was breathing through my hands. Years passed like this. Ink for air. Paper for pulse. Love for time. And though I never saw her again, I began to believe what her first letter said. You're still here. That's all the proof I need. It arrived on a Sunday. No return address. No country. No stamp I recognized. Only my name written in her perfect tilt, and a single word beneath it. Home. My hands trembled before I even touched it. The paper felt warm, as if it had just left someone's hands. For a moment, I thought I could hear her humming. That same bridge song from so many winters ago. I turned the envelope over. The postmark wasn't a date this time. It was a name. My name. Sent by Ethan Hale. My breath caught. I ran my thumb along the edge until it tore open. Inside, a single folded sheet of pale blue paper. Her handwriting, softer, smaller, as though written from the other side of sleep. When you wake up, tell me you remember. Tell me you found the boy who once believed in warmth. Tell me you kept your promises, all the way to the end. If you're reading this, it means you're almost home. Don't be afraid to open your eyes. The room tilted. I felt the world shift, the way it does when a dream begins to loosen its grip. The letters on the page blurred into light. The paper slipped from my hand. Then, I heard it. Her voice. Close. Real. Breathing my name. Ethan. Wake up, I gasped, and the weight of years fell away. Morning light poured through the window. The scent of coffee. The sound of someone humming softly. I turned my head. She was there. Emma? Alive, beautiful, half asleep beside me. Her hair spilled over the pillow like sunlight made human. You were crying in your sleep again, she whispered. You said my name. I sat up, shaking. Emma, she smiled, touching my face. You don't have to say it, she said gently. I know. But I said it anyway, because I had learned what it cost to wait too long. I love you. Her eyes softened with a kind of recognition, as if she too had seen the same dream, walked through the same letters, heard the same waves. She leaned closer, pressing her forehead to mine. Then, let's start over, she whispered. No more goodbyes. Outside, rain began to fall, quiet, persistent, familiar. It tapped against the window, the same rhythm as before. Only this time, it wasn't saying I miss you. It was saying you made it back. The morning after the dream, I couldn't tell where sleep ended and living began. The air still smelled like her hair after rain. The sheets still remembered her warmth. For the first time in years, the silence didn't hurt. But something was waiting on the desk. A single envelope, cream-colored, unsealed. It hadn't been there the night before. Across the front, in her hand, were the words. The dream doesn't end when you wake. It ends when you forget. I sat for a long time, afraid to touch it. Maybe it was only a note she'd left days ago. Maybe it was something the dream carried back with me. Either way, it was real enough to tremble in the morning light. Inside was a single page. No greeting, no date, just this. If you're reading this, you've found your way through both worlds. One built of sleep, one of daylight. You kept your promises. You learned that love doesn't vanish. It changes rooms. Now it's your turn to keep the door open for someone else. Don't lock it behind you. Below the words, a faint sketch of a blue bowl, drawn in pencil. Underneath, one more line, so light it almost vanished. Keep going. I folded the letter carefully, set it beside the window, and let the rain outside do what it always did. Talk softly of everything we never lost. That day, I went back to the shelter. The children were painting their own dreams on the wall. Waves, stars, hands reaching toward each other. One boy pointed at me. Mr. Hale, is that your wife? He meant the mural of a woman smiling in blue light. I nodded. Yes, I said. She still writes to me. The boy frowned. But she's gone, right? I smiled. Not from where it matters. He didn't understand. But he dipped his brush into the brightest shade of blue, and kept painting. That night, before bed, I took the final envelope in my drawer, the only one I'd never opened. For months I'd avoided it, fearing that after this, there'd be nothing left to wait for. I broke the seal. You don't have to find me again, because you already did. Every time you choose kindness instead of silence, I am there. Every time you stay when it's easier to run, I am home. So if this is the last letter, read it like a beginning. I looked out the window. The rain had stopped, but the streetlights shimmered as if they were still falling. Somewhere, in another life, another dream, I knew she was watching, not as a ghost, but as the reason I'd finally learned how to live. The years moved quietly, like pages turning themselves. I grew older without realizing it. The mirror gathered lines where laughter and grief had shared the same space. The house stayed the same, white, gentle, filled with her handwriting. The Blue Bowl Fund became more than a shelter. It became a language, a way for lost people to call each other home. Children who had once lived under bridges grew up to build roofs for others. They painted walls the color of rainlight, soft, forgiving. Every year, they sent me drawings, oceans, letters, hands holding blue bowls. Every year, I wrote back. When people asked why I never remarried, I smiled and said, because love never ended, it just learned to stay quietly. On my last birthday, the staff arranged a small celebration at the center. There was cake, laughter, too many candles. I couldn't blow them all out, so a little girl helped me. Her name was Grace. She had Emma's eyes, the same fearless calm. She handed me a handmade card. Thank you for giving us a place to belong. Inside it, she had drawn a bridge, a blue bowl, and 2 stick figures sitting beside the sea. I laughed until I cried. The kind of tears that don't hurt anymore. That night, when everyone had gone, I stayed in my office. The rain began again, soft and rhythmic. I took out one last piece of paper. Not for Emma. For him, the 15-year-old boy who ran away with a broken lighter and too much silence. Hey kid, you were right to leave. You were wrong to think no one would stay. Thank you for running it. Let us hear. We found a home, after all. Next time you're scared, remember this. Even the broken things can build shelters. And love isn't about being remembered. It's about remembering. I signed it, simply. Ethan Hale. I placed a letter in an empty envelope and set it on the windowsill. The rain touched the edge of the paper, and the ink bled just enough to look like blue. Later, I must have fallen asleep at my desk. In the dream, she was there. Emma, barefoot on the beach, holding a bowl filled with rainwater and sunlight. She said, "You kept your promise." I said, "You never left." She smiled the same way she always had, quietly, like forgiveness. She reached out her hand. "Come on," she said. "It's time." The wind carried the sound of waves. It wasn't goodbye this time. It was a welcome. And when I opened my eyes, the rain had stopped. The world was quiet. Somewhere, a new day had begun.